Hello, everybody. I was hoping to do a live on this topic, but as you can see, I am in a new location and I just got settled in. I'm going to be here for a month. The previous location that I was needed a bit of a change, and thus I am in the middle of the woods with a beautiful creek just in front of me and in a place of absolute amazing solitude. And this is exactly what I was really needing. I am going to talk about what I wanted to talk about previously is the portrait of King Charles, but also what is happening symbolically in our greater collective. I'm going to cover many different things in this video, and just a little bit of a background information about myself. I have been studying symbology deeply over the last 4 years. A funny, interesting story that happened probably about 7 years ago. I had a reading with an Akashic reader, and she had informed me that I was going to be working with symbols. At this time, I had no idea what she was talking about. I was so far removed from any kind of work to do with symbology or symbols. And I remember after her mentioning that I would be working with symbols, I was almost searching for the meaning of what she meant. But here I am, fast forward several years, and I have spent many years also studying symbology. And it took me a little bit of time to actually connect the dots of what she said in the past to now and my fascination with symbology. So the purpose of this video is not only about the painting. I don't really want to talk too much about the royal family. I really, truthfully, am not overly concerned about their affairs and what's happening within their family and within the monarch, etc. I feel, in my own personal opinion, I feel that it is something that should not even exist anymore in this time period that we're in. However, I feel that the painting that was revealed had something to do with what I just said. So I'm going to talk about this symbology. I'm going to talk about what I felt, how I felt seeing it, because symbology also is part of our collective unconscious. And this goes back to Carl Jung's work, talking about how symbology, myth, and meaning are all aspects of ourselves that we can relate to. That once we understand more about symbology and myth and meaning, we can understand our own psyche. We can see more within ourselves. We can relate more with life. And meaning and symbology is around us constantly. Symbology has been used for hundreds and hundreds of years, thousands of years actually, by ancient civilizations, by advanced civilizations, and also by secret societies and even royalty. So symbology has been part of a very deep and meaningful way of communicating beyond words, beyond what words can say. And symbology holds depth of meaning when we look at it, when we feel it, when we sense it. I studied the tarot for many years, same with numerology, and over a amount of time, I could see patterns and I could feel the meaning of the symbols. And that is the power of symbology. And that's why I want to talk about this. And I feel that the painting, I watched many different art critics and historians talk about this piece. I've read some information as well on it, and the interpretations I feel are very basic. In all honesty, I feel that a lot of the interpretations are good, have been good, and I will talk about that. But also, I feel when we want to look deeper into the meaning of this, I feel that there is a lot to uncover and unpack with this particular piece. And I feel that especially now in this moment in time, how symbolic it is relating to what is happening with the movement of our consciousness and the shifting of awareness, but also the growth that humanity is experiencing on so many levels. So there is so much to unpack here, and let's get started. All right, so I have my laptop open. I'm going to be referring to my notes here and there, so just don't mind me. When I look down, I'm going to be, referring to many notes that I have, because I had a lot going on when I was thinking about this and contemplating And even thinking about this video, and as I mentioned, I was going to record a live instead and do a live stream, but I don't know the Wi-Fi situation here. I don't know if it's strong enough. So I'm just going to jump into this because I've been wanting to talk about it for a while, and I don't want to miss the time of the unveiling, right? And this happened several days ago, so I don't want to drag it out and cover this further down the line. I feel now is the time to talk about it because it's fresh. And there's still a lot of information probably still cycling through with regards to this particular painting. But like I said, there's a lot happening right now in the world. And on my channel also, I have to preface, if you've been watching me for a while, if you've been here, thank you so much for being here. And it's always amazing to hear people's stories and connect with you all through this channel in whatever form. It's truly incredible. And I feel that with this channel, it's been sort of taking a life of its own as I've been adjusting to doing this work and finding my way in it. But also I feel the majority of the work here, the content that I like to create is content to guide us through these times of transformation, of awakening, if you will, of self-actualization. However, because my interest also lies in symbology and meaning, and I do want to focus on myth soon, I do want to, of course, yes, focus on that, bring it up for more discussion so that we can dive deeper into ourselves, so that we can understand many different aspects of ourselves and deepen our awareness, deepen our consciousness, enrich our lives, and make sense of what's happening within ourselves and within our environment and within the world. And definitely symbology, myth are part of that bigger picture, part of this experience that we're in. So I will be covering more of myth and symbology on this channel, mostly to understand ourselves and to understand the complexities of our life, of the world, of humanity, etc. All right, so with that, we're going to go into this portrait of King Charles that was unveiled several days ago. It's quite a piece. It's quite a piece. It took me by surprise, truthfully. I didn't even know there was a painting that was going to be unveiled until I saw a video on this unveiling. And I was shocked. There are going to be a couple different perspectives I want to throw in here as well. So I know what a lot of you probably are thinking and how you're feeling about it, but I want to look at it from different perspectives and different angles and dissect it from different aspects that can be explored. So first off, this unveiling was the first official portrait of King Charles since his coronation. So this was done by Jonathan Yeo. I think that's his last name, if I'm pronouncing it properly. It's Y-E-O, Yeo, I feel. Okay, this painting, there's so many, I don't even know where to start on this, actually. There are so many layers to this. First, what I want to look at is why this painting is being unveiled now. Nothing happens by chance. There are no coincidences, especially situations like this, especially big happenings, big unveilings. It's not that I feel it was planned intentionally. I feel there's so much unconscious behavior happening here that a lot of people on the inside of this orchestration, if you will, the painting, the artist, the monarch, etc., probably didn't plan this to be veiled at this time. The reason why I'm mentioning it is because we have a lot of activity happening in the world right now. We have the block celebrities. We have the block celebrities from the Met Gala turned into block government, block churches, block, all these other groups and industries. And then there was also recently the students of Harvard University are turning on the business of Harvard and calling them out for all the corruption that they've been involved in. Now, I don't know the whole story on it. I don't know all the details. I just caught a little bit of information on it last night, which I am going to be diving into because it's quite fascinating. The younger generation is creating a movement. Change is happening. The monarch has been questioned for many years of its relevancy and its importance in our modern world and why we still have a monarch and what they're doing with people's money. So I'm going to get into that also. So the symbology and the meaning of I would say more the meaning of the unveiling during this time. And especially, of course, from an astrological standpoint, we have Pluto back in retrograde, but going direct in October. So this moment of retrograde is a period of reassessment. It is a period of getting ready and preparing for the next evolution, which is going to be huge. It's going to be big. I just got shivers actually saying this because people are getting ready. They're preparing to create incredible change with the old systems. And I say it plural because there are many different systems that are being questioned and that are being challenged at this time, and is going to keep picking up momentum. So we are in a universal year 8. So I just want to highlight that from a numerology standpoint, which means there is going to be friction this year. There's going to be push and pull between power plays, right? People who are wanting change in this world, and then people who are those in power wanting to reinforce their power. And that is definitely happening this year. At the beginning of the year, this is something I spoke about, but we never really know how it's going to play out in the details. We have an idea, but that's why it's so important to be in the present moment and to pay attention of what's happening in the here and now, to have the awareness of where this is actually taking us and how can we play a part in this greater movement, if it is through support, if it is by healing ourselves, which is actually probably the biggest thing we can do. But if it is to support a movement, if it is to support others or encourage them or give them a little heart or a thumbs up on social media. And also, I guess TikTok is going to be banned, or it has actually been passed. The banning legislation has been passed to remove TikTok from the United States as of, I think it's September 9th. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I caught this really quickly again on TikTok, actually. So it was a very quick piece of information that I feel is very relevant and very important for what this is all about, what's happening in our world. All right. So the reason why I mentioned it in context with the rest of the happenings in the world, because everything is connected. We are connected. They are connected. There are so many layers and dimensions that are connected and playing out in any given time. And we are connected to it. We are connected in some kind of way to something as simple as that. But it's not very simple. It's actually very complex. And that's why this video probably is going to be a longer video. I just also have to mention to be very cautious of where you are giving your energy at this time, or as we move along through these great happenings and unveilings. The veil is getting thinner, meaning that we are seeing more. And there's a lot of unconscious behavior that's coming up to the surface that has been in, I would say, control for a long time. And it's coming up to the surface, and it, like I said, it's becoming stronger, but we're seeing it more. And that's part of what happened. We are seeing the truth, and we are also connecting the dots, and it's becoming more and more apparent as to how certain organizations or certain structures are functioning in this world and how it's not working anymore. And it's almost, I feel, I don't know if it's getting stronger, if these organizations are getting stronger in their ways, or we are becoming more aware and more attuned to what is happening in the world and what's happening with some of these certain infrastructures or institutions that are in place, right? And so we are seeing more. Same with the Met Gala. That's where a lot of this actually started on our side in North America. A lot of people were really taken aback from many things that happened at the Met Gala. Actually, it wasn't just the let them eat cake thing. That was only a small portion of the bigger issue that created a very big movement, which was quite amazing, actually. So again, this is all connected, and this portrait does play into the story. And as I mentioned, be aware of where you are putting your energy, where you're focusing your energy. I would like to give a little bit of advice here to be cautious of where you are putting your energy. Try not to go too deep into these stories and into these happenings. It's not worth our energy and it's not worth our focus. However, as I mentioned, it's important to be aware of what is happening because we are seeing the shifts. The shifts are very, very apparent, and the divide is becoming even greater than before. All right. And with regards to the royal family, to your discretion and to your discernment. But I want to say, try not to go too deep into it, because there's a lot happening there. There's a lot of sickness, there's a lot of darkness, there's a lot of unhealthy energy, and there are a lot of unhealthy people, which I'll also talk about. And it's important for us to separate ourselves from that and not give our energy to it, and not, again, like, find ourselves lost in these stories and lost in these conversations. And this conversation is not about the inner workings of the monarch. I'm not going to give my energy to it. I don't really want to. But again, symbology and meaning is the theme of this video, which is really important. So I just wanted to be clear with that. So going into the painting itself, so we're going to start there, and I'm going to work it out a little bit to look at kind of the broader context of it, but we're going to get very granular and very detailed with this work. If you would like to open up the portrait and take a look at it while I cover it, feel free. I also am going to refer to the artist's previous work, so you can feel free to look at his work while I tie it all together and create the story around this. And by doing this, I am hoping to open this up for dialogue and for discussion for you to contemplate. All right, so there's a lot here that we can observe, and this has to do with human behavior, this has to do with history, this has to do with humanity, it has to do with symbology, which is a big part of it. Right. So when I first saw the portrait, the unveiling, the real unveiling of the cloth coming down and this big, massive portrait being revealed, I was shocked. Of course, I feel a lot of people were shocked. My instant feeling and sensation of it was that it was steeped in blood. And I mean, it goes deep into the history. There are so many different ways to look at this. Why red? Out of all things. Now, Charles is actually naturally a progressive person. He has wanted to constantly do things that were a bit out of the norm from the typical monarch type of ways. So someone chose this artist, and he had worked with this artist for a while, for a couple of years, I think it was. So it's not as if he had no participation in this painting and in the development of it. He knew what color was going to be used. He knew the style, and he knew the symbology. So it wasn't really a total surprise. This, of course, the end result was a surprise, but he was aware, and his partner Camilla also was very aware. And this is also where it gets interesting about the unconscious self, right? So when something like this is revealed to the public, it's so important to take into consideration how people are going to see and perceive this, or see and perceive certain things, right? When people are really out of touch with society and with history and with the damage that has been done because of certain behaviors and certain rulings and power and corruption and greed and monarch, when you unveil something like that, it's so important to look at the different perspectives of how people are going to feel and how people are going to react. This is the divide of the unconscious and the conscious self, or unconscious and conscious people in society. Now, from an unconscious place, it's a very nice piece of work. I'm going to say I liked it. I like the style. I do like the artist's work. I think he is very talented. I like the fact that it did create a stir. It did create many different types of reactions, which actually good art does that. It's better than the typical staunch artwork that the royal family usually has done. So for the fact that it is progressive, it is unique, it's daring, it's bold, it's like creating an emotional reaction with people, it's controversial, I like it. I like it. I tend to gravitate towards statement pieces, things that are going to invoke a lot of emotional reactions and debate, etc. However, I mean, it's wild. It's wild how this has been painted and what has been missed as far as how people are emotionally going to react. So this is where I'm going to go a little bit deeper in it. The artist, Jonathan Yeo, I hope I have his last name right, He's British, of course. He's painted portraits of many famous people. And if you do look at his work, you can look it up. A majority of his work has actually been done in a very subdued manner, a very natural sort of tone. He has a very nice style, I have to say. But the majority of the work from his past portraits have been very almost I would say natural in tone. Nothing as bold as this portrait of King Charles, nothing with big, bold red color. I think I saw one who was had a little bit of red, who was a military someone. I have no idea really who it was, but there's a little bit of red in that, but nothing to this extent, nothing so drastic and so dramatic and bold as this particular portrait. So why? Subconscious will bring to light messages that may not even be seen and realized in that exact moment in time. So for example, many artists and many creative people channel their work and channel inspiration from the unknown, from their unconscious, from the genius, the place that we can't really put our finger on. So was he channeling this from a deeper place? Is this how he sees the monarch? Is this how he, on a very unconscious level, sees the pain and the brutality that systems such as this in history has caused to people, caused towards humanity? Does it relate to his military background? His uniform was red. So does it relate to the army? But the army and military, in my mind, is connected to death, to conquering, to brutality, right? Control, greed, power, corruption. Does this symbolize the death of the monarchy? Does it symbolize the heart of all of the bloodlines that have influenced humanity due to its meaning and its control and oppression over society? So there are so many different ways to look at this. And yes, some people have also mentioned pure evilness in this, which I will leave it open for anyone to comment on that. I don't want to throw that away either. There can be something behind the scenes, because I feel many people in the monarch, no matter who they are or what they believe, they have to act a certain way. They have to be a certain way. They have to be conditioned a certain way. Therefore, they are not their true selves. They are not authentic. They are not living and breathing as an authentic human being. They are living and breathing as a role to play in a bigger picture, right? And in that role, you have to abide by the rules. You have to act a certain way. You have to look a certain way. You have to do this and that and that. And they become so programmed, if you will, or confined to this particular structure that they are not their free, true selves. And they probably don't even know what their true free selves are or is. They don't know. They're disconnected from it. And so this is the divide of the unconscious and conscious playing out in this particular unveiling, in this portrait that has been done. Let's go into this painting in detail and take a look at what is there. What can we look at? What can we gain by looking into the details of this work? I want to talk about the butterfly, which is also really important. So the butterfly was used as a signature of the beauty and nature and highlights the king's environmental causes. All right, if that was the case, there could have been so many ways to highlight the king's involvement in environmental causes. The metamorphosis of King Charles could be relevant, could apply. However, again, with this red, the red color changes everything. If you had maybe a green background or more of a nature environment like this in the background with a butterfly there, it would change the tone and it would change the symbolism of this painting entirely. But because of the red and because of the shift in this meaning of the painting, which is shifting away from what the artist's statement is shifting away from many, I would say, people who saw this painting and thought it was resembling Charles to a T. Camilla said that that he was captured perfectly. When you add red and this type of design into context with the butterfly, it changes the meaning of the butterfly altogether. Now, it could mean a death and rebirth. It could mean maybe subconsciously and consciously, maybe there's a bit of a death of the monarch, or maybe King Charles is also kind of at the end of his reign. He's sort of getting old, and I think he had cancer, or there was conversation about him being ill. So maybe there's a bit of that story woven in. But I also want to go into what the butterfly means in other ancient meanings. In Aztec civilization in 15th and 16th centuries, there was a goddess, I'm going to mess up this name, it's Palotl. So this was an obsidian butterfly and associated with death and darkness. So she was often depicted as a skeletal figure adorned with butterfly wings. She was also believed to accompany the souls of the deceased on their journey into the underworld, adding a darker aspect to butterfly symbolism. Now, the other one is going to be in medieval Europe in the Middle Ages. During this period, butterflies were sometimes associated with witches and witchcraft. In Christian Europe, witches were believed to have the ability to transform into butterflies or moths to perform their dark deeds under the cover of night. This association led to the butterfly being viewed as a symbol of dark magic and malevolence. So when you take symbology from a certain meaning and you place it into context of a certain story, it changes the meaning of that symbol fully. Maybe a representation of gardens and metamorphosis to something of a different tone, something of a bit of a darker tone in this area here. So that's what I wanted to highlight mostly, is that when we connect the dots with something so powerful as this, we can go into many different areas of discussion. It's not just the superficial reason that the artist's statement had and that other people who were part of this this art piece, Camilla, King Charles, for example, probably some of the others in the royal family, their description of this piece is very superficial. It's very basic. When we really look into it, and of course look at the history of the monarch, their current relevancy, which isn't really relevant anymore, what they had done to humanity and to people, being one of the, I feel, main components of the oppression of many of us in the world, the fear, the ostracism, the persecution, the corruption, the power. The power that they hold, or that they've especially held in the past and enforced it in ways of brutality, yes, leaves a mark on humanity in many ways for histories. For histories, we are still dealing with the repercussions of their actions from a long time ago, and currently, for that matter, in some indirect ways. And so no wonder this painting created such an emotional reaction with many people, because there are wounds in humanity within ourselves that still need to heal, that have been created partially from them, partially from that society, partially from this type of structure that brutalized humans. Right? So how do we look at that and actually feel that it is a beautiful painting that is very emotionally attuned with humanity and depicts King Charles in all of his fame and glory as a glorious leader? Again, Charles is very progressive, and he does have a humanitarian aspect to him, which is lovely and great. However, there's so much more beyond that pertaining to the history and the true core identity and position that it has in our history and in the world. So there's a lot of symbology to unpack here. I know this video is getting a bit long. There's more behind the scenes to this, I feel, than we'll ever know. The purpose of this video is to look beyond the superficiality and get real about what is happening in the world, get real about monarchs such as this, and get real about our history so that we can change our future, so that we can see these patterns, so that we can also look beyond the depths of in areas where we haven't seen before, where we haven't been able to look before, but now we're seeing it. Now we're seeing it more, and we're also not only seeing it, we are confidently stepping into our power to do something about it. And that's also the movement that's happening that I referenced at the very beginning of this video. This whole movement that is happening because humanity is ready for change, ripe for change. We are changing. We are evolving. We're moving past this old system, the oligarchs and the monarchy and corruption, greed, and power that we have carried on our shoulders for lifetimes. Now it's starting to change. And I feel this was a huge, huge statement in this period in time of what we're going through. This was wow. I mean, I don't even know what to say. It's so powerful, right? It says a lot. It says a lot. And I'm sure you might have some different ways of looking at it, new perspectives. I would love to hear them as well. How you felt, what you think about it, other meanings that you might see beyond the surface, behind the scenes, or behind the superficiality of what the media might be saying, or what might be looked at first glance. I'd love to hear how you are feeling about it, what you see behind the veil, if you will. I do want to also cover just a couple more things, because I do want to capture his face. I do want to capture his hands, because these are also the more prominent and realistic aspects in this painting. The rest more subdued and pushed back, kind of over clouded by this red that's coming in. It's almost like his military outfit is blending with the red in the background. I mean, maybe even symbolizing all these I just want to go back into the war of the Middle Ages, all just the complete chaos and destruction that was happening back then. It could even represent fire, almost like the red of it is could even be flames. It's very, very intense, but his face is very humble and very soft, and his eyes are very soft. I mean, a little dark, but his face with a semi-smile and a bit of sadness gives him that certain allows for a certain moment of empathy, or a certain moment of human connection. When you can see someone's face in that type of tone and in that level of clarity, based on the depth of abstract and the red all around him, the face pops, and it's him, and it's the eyes, and it's his almost smiling in a half way. That gives him a little bit more personality, a little bit more kindness, a little bit more a humanistic tone or relationship with people looking at this painting. Some people have also commented on his hands. Someone said being like talons. I don't think so. I think his hands look very sweet, in all honesty. I think his composure is subdued. It's not so tough and strong, is very soft. And so you have a man with a very soft composure, and King Charles does. I feel he's a life path too, also, just FYI. I believe I looked into it a long time ago. But he does have a very emotional side to him. He does have a very soft side to him, whatever that means. But there is the softness that is being portrayed here in the contrast of all of the red, whatever red means. If it is meaning death, if it is meaning almost like transformation, death of monarchy, or the history of long ago of what has happened, and the implications of historical actions on humanity today. So there's a lot of meaning behind this. I would love to hear your thoughts. I would love for you to weigh in on how you feel about this, what you think, and also even how you feel about the world, about what's happening and its relevance in today's moment in time, as we're shifting into a higher consciousness, being very aware of these messages that are being portrayed in humanity and what it means. What does it exactly mean? What are they trying to say to us? Or is the veil thinning so much that we're starting to see what has always been there in a more dramatic and more heightened tone, in a more heightened way? So I'd love to hear from you. Let me know what you think. And we're going to keep exploring these patterns as we move along. Take care.